This is the county's Commissioners Weekly Finance Meeting. Today, Wednesday, June 14, 2023, right now at 1:30 p.m. We started calling the meeting order. Open up the floor for any public comment to come before Commissioners. Nobody online, nobody in house. All right, then I'll move to item 3. We have the minutes in hand of our meeting of June 7. We'll need action on those today, please.
Move to approve the minutes of June 7th.
A second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, that brings us to our topics of discussion for today. We have 2. First item is our discussion on the multi-state opioid settlement funding, and Jack Carroll is here, our head of drug and alcohol. He's going to brief us on what's going on.
Ready? I'll take the center stage here. I'm going to be limited in how much information I can share with you, unfortunately, because there's not been a lot of information disseminated from the opioid misuse and abatement trust that was set up to manage as a fund. But I can tell you a few things. The trust has entered an agreement with CCAP, County Commissioners Association, for administrative support. That's a good thing. That I think will only improve communication and the clarity. One of the things that has already happened, it's a very good thing, is that for the first time a website for the trust. So anybody who's interested in the community can go and learn more information about the trust and by visiting the website. It was launched in early April. The trust has also started to hold meetings, open public meetings for the first time. And I think that's a little overdue since the trust was actually established last July, almost a year ago. But they did have 2 public meetings. First one was on March 30th. Second one was on May 18th. Videos of the meetings and meeting minutes can be found on that website. So that's helpful. There's also a schedule of future public meetings. The website also has a page for frequently asked questions. We're a little bit confused by this because there's only 4 questions and answers that are posted on that webpage. And they're very basic. It's good information. It's very basic information. Part of my confusion is that Commissioners, you may recall that in late February, the Attorney General's office circulated via email frequently asked questions document that had a number of questions and answers. But those questions and answers aren't posted on the webpage. And so it makes me wonder whether those are official or not, or is it just a matter of administrative slip up that they haven't yet been posted. And you might recall this as well, I had disagreed with some of the answers or responses given to the set of frequently asked questions that had been circulated. And so I was able, through my statewide affiliate, PACTA, the Drug and Alcohol Administrators Association, which is an affiliate of CCAP, I was able to submit some additional questions. And some of those questions challenge some of the responses from the Attorney General's document, or the documents circulated by the Attorney General. Supposedly that was actually a document from the trust fund. Particularly, I had raised some more questions about the 18-month spend requirement, and would it be possible to give more flexibility, particularly given the lack of information about reporting requirements and the fact that there are 2 payments in the first year. And I had also challenged their response to a question about administrative costs, pointing to some of the segments of Exhibit E, which which is part of the multi-state agreement that delineates eligible criteria for use of the opioid settlement funds. I had been assured that my questions had been shared with the trust and there would be responses, but there haven't been thus far. And so I did take another step. I was a little bit fearful that maybe they slipped through the cracks, despite the assurances I had been received. And I was getting nervous because time continues to tick. And if this 18-month spend requirement, if there's no flexibility in that, then counties are going to need to make some decisions sooner rather than later. So I decided to take advantage of the website. They have a feature on there where anybody can submit questions as well. And I resubmitted my questions one at a time. That's the way you have to do them on the website. And using their submit your question option. And I did get a quick email response from somebody from CCAP indicating questions had been received and responses will be provided. So that was encouraging. But what I want to say that is in the absence of additional information, I think we need to assume there's not going to be more flexibility around the 18-month spend requirement. That we're going to have to move forward with some plan on how to commit opioid settlement funds that have not yet been committed. You recall that you folks did take a recommendation from me and from Cumberland County Prison to use some of the funds for Cumberland County to continue the Vivitrol program at the prison. That's the only Cumberland County opioid funding that's been committed thus far. So I think we might need to move forward. I had mentioned earlier, and I'll reiterate it now, another recommendation, not for formal action, but just for consideration. And that's a reminder that all county jails are now faced with a new unfunded mandate as a result of some recent lawsuits that have determined if somebody with an opioid use disorder who is using one of the 3 FDA-approved forms of medication-assisted treatment is admitted to a county jail, it's now the jail's responsibility to continue them on that same form of medication-assisted treatment during their period of incarceration. And as you know, when somebody's incarcerated, they're not eligible for medical assistance. So that ends up with the prison and the county putting the bill for that. So I do think that a top priority in committing funds should be to determine what will be the additional cost. Now, the 3 forms of medication-assisted treatment are Vivitrol, and that's already covered with the action that's already been taken, but also buprenorphine or Suboxone and methadone. I have been in touch with the prison, and they're busy working on coming up with a cost estimate of those other 2, Suboxone and methadone. What will be their projected cost of meeting this new requirement? And so that should be a top consideration. But the other thought that I have, and the other suggestion I have, is that for the balance of the funds, that a simple process be set up, probably similar to what you folks set up for the CARES funding and for the ARPA funds, that would allow folks from the community, drug and alcohol agencies, community organizations, but also perhaps other county departments that believe they have legitimate program that can address opioid mitigation and abatement, that they should be invited to submit proposals. And that, like we did with CARES and ARPA, we should make the proposal process simplified. So it's not the best grant writer who necessarily gets considered. One of the things that I do think we want to be considerate of is these settlement funds are in our hands as a result of the tragedy suffered by a lot of families. There have been literally over the last 10 years, hundreds of Cumberland County residents that have lost their lives to overdoses. And the vast majority of those were opioid related. And those families are not receiving any settlement funds. But I think we have a sort of an obligation to them to set up a process where it's transparent and where they can see how this money is being used. That's why I would recommend we have a similar open process for anybody who thinks they have a good idea to apply. Not that any idea would be accepted. It would have to be vetted. That would have to be part of the process. So that's all that I have to present. Questions?
One question, if there's any, is there any concern that if we take that tack of essentially opening the eligibility case, that we might have to walk that back at some point, whether because of guidance or other matters?
Well, I don't think so, because all we'd be doing is inviting people to submit ideas or proposals. We wouldn't be committing any funds based on that. And I don't think that any of the questions that we might get answers to would give us more flexibility, not less flexibility. So I don't think that that would be a problem or concern. Good question, though. Other questions?
Do we know when the next public meeting is?
We do, but I don't.
Well, that's all right. I just wondered if they posted it. Maybe it would be good to,
I think it's
for a representative to be there.
I think it's not until September. But they did. I've taken advantage and listened to the YouTube of the two public meetings, and they did mention that although the next public meeting isn't scheduled until September, that's because they had to put together and advertise a set of public meetings. And they anticipate that there will probably be additional public meetings needed and then announced and publicized over the summer. So I think there will probably be at least one. I guess another relevant piece of information is a reminder that we did get two payments, one at the end of August, second at the end of December. At the end of August, with the 18-month spend, we would be expected to have that money expended by the end of February 2024. With the December payment, we'd be expected to have that money expended by the end of June 2024, so a year from now. I have a little bit of time.
Okay, anything else? Any questions?
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, our second discussion item today is in regards to, well, the agenda refers specifically to the resolution, but in general, the mental health services issue is something in front of us. So I think what we wanted to do is we have Annie Strike here, the Director of Mental Health Services. So Annie, we're going to pass the baton to you, and anything you can tell us in terms of current standing, an update. I know we have a contract issue to address as well, and then of course the resolution. So I'll just put it over to you.
Thank you. Certainly you as the Board of Commissioners are well aware of how busy you've been as a function of our 4 town hall meetings that we've convened at Lower Allen Township, Carlisle, Shippensburg, and Perry County. And I think we did a really nice job of ensuring that we were very diverse in spreading it out literally across both of our counties. So gave plenty of opportunity to educate the public around the need, as well as to hear from the public about unaddressed need and struggles that they're having. And some of those town hall meetings, as you heard, were very touching and very challenging to hear some folks' stories. Certainly very clearly identified as a significant need in our community, and unaddressed need. So to us in the mental health office, this resolution is very, very critical. And we certainly value your attention to the mental health needs of the community. Other things that we've been working on is I've been very pleased with our constituents. Our local NAMI has very much stepped up, our National Alliance on Mental Illness. Even though they are largely a volunteer-led organization, no paid positions currently, and they enlisted their membership. And they have been physically going out and face-to-face meeting with legislators in their local offices as well as at the Capitol. And they've also met with leadership. I know that they've met with the appropriations chair. They met with Representative Grove and with Jordan Harris. They've definitely, been reaching out literally across the continuum of all the counties, representatives and senators. So I think they've done a really nice job. We've also engaged the chiefs of police. And we forwarded kind of a template that they could use. And that was circulated last week to all of our local police jurisdictions so that not only the chiefs could send a letter, but each individual police jurisdiction would have that opportunity as well. We've also had some outreach from our schools. Of course, as you know, our schools have been engaged in the town hall meetings, which we've been really pleased with just how interested they are. So we've been reaching out to the schools, and actually now some individual teachers, individual counselors, social workers are reaching out saying, can you provide something so we can, make sure that we're hitting the talking points appropriately? So we've responded to those folks as well so that they have a tool that they can use to individually reach out to their legislator, kind of identifying the need. And our United Way, actually United Way of the Capital Region, reached out and also asked, because we have community health workers working out of our United Way. And so they're interested as well in trying to ensure that the community mental health system is adequately funded. As well as numerous meetings for us as well. We've had some good media attention, compliments to Samantha and her team, trying to make sure that we're getting the word out to the community. Samantha set up a meeting last week with Kristen Paradise, the governor's liaison. So we spent probably almost 2 hours with her talking about all kinds of things related to mental health. Found out from her that she previously worked in mental health, so she seemed to have a good awareness of some of the things that we were talking about. So I felt really good about that conversation. Yesterday, Jack and I went to the Capitol and spoke with Ben Slate, who is Senator Rothman's legislative director. So we talked about both opioid settlement funds as well as the need for county-based funding. And then actually last week I had the opportunity on behalf of PACA, Pennsylvania Association of County Administrators, to meet with the joint committees for Veterans Affairs, Emergency Preparedness, and Human Services to talk about the integration between 911 and 988. So that was kind of a unique opportunity. I was thankful for the chance because I think if nothing else, it really helps to face-to-face talk about the need that exists in the county mental health system. So I was grateful for that opportunity as well. So that's just a real quick picture of some of the things we've been working on for the last couple of months, since March. I mean, literally the week after the governor's budget address, we were on it. And so, props to all of our departments, because all of our human services departments, the jail, public safety, they've all been really supportive of how do we get the message out. I wanted to just touch base about the contracts as well. So that's all the good stuff we've been doing about education and advocacy work, but we also are sitting on this year, $2.5 million projected deficit. And our earliest projections of the look at next year I don't have some of our largest providers' budgets in yet. If I just use the numbers for this year and project out for next year, it's looking like about $3.1 million. And we are scrutinizing these contracts very thoroughly. I will also add that and going through them to see what's changed, what is changing, where the needs are, as well as kind of saying, is this a need or is this a want? Because if it's a need, we need to take a very serious look at it. If it's a want, maybe we can wait to see how the governor's budget shakes out at the end. So that's as much as I can give you right now. We want to be sending our contracts through. We have smaller providers who literally rely exclusively on funds from the county to pay their staff. So we want to be sure that we're supporting them to make sure that they can meet their payrolls. Let me know if you have questions. I know that if you have questions, we'll be happy to do our best to respond.
So with the contracts, because we had this discussion before, are we facing any imminent decision here in terms of what the commissioners to do?
Not today,
Okay.
you know, and even I don't know if you would prefer just to look at, you know, where the contracts are coming in, and then with the hope that when the governor's budget is approved, it will give us some obvious amounts of dollars that we have to work with.
So we're really at the mercy of the legislative action on the budget. So.
Earlier this morning, I got another email from PACA with more talking points, another template for letters, and we actually have our MHID advisory board meeting tomorrow. So I'll make sure that that's part of the board packet, and so that our MHID advisory board members are also circulating that.
I guess with that, we're probably prepared to move on to the resolution, which is the agenda item rather. So I'm glad you pointed out the all hands involvement effort here. So many folks involved in trying to get this message to the right decision makers so that we can, you know, at least address this issue and hopefully do so in a manner it's not just plugging a small gap for a while or not so small gap for a while, but it comes up with something that's going to be on a more sustained basis. And I think that's what part of what the resolution is intended to do. So we have, as other counties have been looking at a resolution of support that is encouraged by the County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania, which call for mental health based funding to be increased, ensuring that residents are able to get the care they need. Resolution, unless there's a need, someone feels a need for me to actually read the resolution, you know, we can just kind of summarize. It'll be part of the public record, but the resolution does detail, since 2008, funds have been eroded by state budget cuts and the elimination of associated COLAs with that as well. And the resolution we will be passing as a board and signing calls for the governor and general assembly to commit to a long-term plan of additional increases over the next 5 to 10 years so that we can pull the MH system back from a point of certainly of crisis, if not collapse, and make it to a system that more fully meets the needs that we're facing as a fast-growing county, and that all counties, in fact, are facing as this problem increases nationwide. So once we address this, we'll have this forwarded on both to the, to the legislative delegation as well as to the governor's office and to CCAP, the County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania, as well. So we have a draft resolution in hand. Others to address any questions or comments they wish to make regarding the resolution.
I think he summed it up pretty well. The key thing here, we have to make sure that our state legislature understands, and I think they are starting to get the message. This is not a one-year fix. It's got to be a multi-year solution here. That's all the comments I have.
Monday, CCAP Behavioral Health Services Committee met. We met in Harrisburg, and the message from the state was, and not the state, the message from CCAP, and then there were members of the Department of Human Services who came in, and they said, you have to get the legislature to give this money. And you have to keep talking about it and pressing them on the issue. And so I think this is another good thing for us to do. Because if we do not do this, we are not getting this money. We will not get it, and it will be catastrophic to Cumberland County.
Additional comments, questions for Annie? Questions questions for staff? If not, it is an action item, so I'll take a motion regarding the proposed resolution.
Make a motion that we approve resolution 2023-15, which is supporting an increase in state funding for community-based health services in fiscal year 2023, 2024 state budget, and hopefully beyond.
I second that motion.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. All in favor indicate by say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Thanks, Andy. Okay. Was there anything additional on that issue for us to tackle today? Not hearing anything. So with that, we'll move on to agenda item 5, which is other business. Other business to come before the board. If not, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Seeing